Hey everyone, it's Laurel here, and I'm here with my fifth card from the watercolor cards that I made using different mediums. A few days ago I made six, and this is the fifth card using watercoloring with the Faber Castell Gelatos. I absolutely love gelatos. Anybody who knows me knows I love these things. So I'm going to be making those two cards I just showed you today in the video, and I love the Design Memory Crafts Faber Castell Gelatos. They are like creamy little chapsticks. I want to smear them all over my lips, but for some reason I think I would look funny. So they're fun. My son uses them. You can blend them with water. You can blend them with a damp cloth, a baby wipe. You can even blend them with the natural oils from your fingers. It's whatever you want to do. So today I'm going to show you two different ways that I blend them. So to start with, I'm going to go ahead and stamp this birthday greeting here again. You can never have too many birthday cards in black VersaFine Onyx Black ink. Now I'm taking extra pressure on this because watercolor cardstock is textured. So as you can see, I didn't exactly get the best impression. It didn't matter how hard I pressed there. And it's not the ink, it's the paper because of the texture from the watercolor. So the great thing about clear stamps is you can line them up and go over it again, and you can get a really crisp image. You can do this with your colored stamps too if you want to get a darker image with your inks. You can look like you actually inked up a bunch of stuff with two stamp sets or two stamp colors, but really you only used one. So that'll be another video. That's something I'll do later on, but I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. So anyway, I've gone ahead and stamped that with the black VersaFine ink, and because it's a pigment ink, it stays wet longer, so I'm able to do some really quick heat embossing. So I'm going to do that, and those little clips there are ideas that I got from Jennifer McGuire. They're cable clips, and I'll be sure to link those up in the description as well as to what I use here. Anyway, so I'm going to go ahead and heat set that, and you can see how quickly the clear embossing powder melts there on the ink. The embossing powder that I use is by Hero Arts. So I just love it. It's a really fine embossing powder, and it really gives some great results when you heat emboss with it. And the heat gun that I'm using is the Milwaukee heat gun, by the way. It's the best one I've ever used, and I've used a few. So yeah, that's all nice and heat embossed, and it's shiny because of the embossing powder. So when we apply the gelatos, it's actually going to resist from the embossed image. So I want to show you how I kind of created the background there. So I'm using 4 different colors today, and I'm kind of making a much brighter card. So it's the same technique as the other card, but it's a lot brighter. So get out some sunglasses. So I'm just applying the gelatos down, just scribbling them directly onto my cardstock there. No rhyme or reason. I'm just doing whatever I want. You can use any colors. You can use one color. You can use 50 colors. It doesn't really matter. And I'm showing you how I can blend with a baby wipe. This is a damp baby wipe. And I decided I wanted all the colors to blend together. So how easy is that? You just take a baby wipe and you just kind of rub them onto the cardstock, and they start to blend together. Now, if you didn't want all the colors to blend together, you can just use a different area of the baby wipe there, and the colors won't blend together as much. But I wanted them to. And now I'm going in and darkening up some of the areas. I'm applying more gelato, and I'm actually going in and blending it with my finger. The card base is already wet from the baby wipe, but I also have natural oils on my fingertips as well. So going in, adding all the colors again because I didn't want that light of a result there. And that's basically what I'm doing here. And you get this really fun background. Now I'm going in and kind of going over the baby wipe over the embossed image to remove any of the gelato, and it wipes right off, and your embossed image and sentiment is just crisp and shiny. And ignore the back of that cardstock. Y'all didn't see that. I messed up the first time, so I just flipped it over. And that's that. So that's, I'm going to set that aside and let that dry. And that's blending with the baby wipe. But I also wanted to show you that you can blend with water and a paintbrush. So that's what I'm going to do in this next card. Very, very same. And I also wanted to show you that you didn't have to stamp a sentiment first. You can go in and do your sentiment later. So if you wanted to create a bunch of watercolored backgrounds and just leave them blank until you have the occasion where you need a card, you can absolutely do that. And these are just where I keep some. I need to rinse these off. Little paintbrushes there. I keep them in a little mug there. That was a little Hermione Granger mug. I love Harry Potter. And that's just some water in one of the Faber Castell collapsible bowls there. And now I'm just going in and blending with my water. The more water you add, the lighter the color will be. The less water you add, the more intense your color will be. And that goes with any kind of watercoloring. So I'm going in. Now I've brought in a rag here to kind of remove some of the water from my brush. And then I'm going to go in and do some more blending. And I'll end up going in and adding a little bit more watercolor because I really want these colors to be light and vibrant. It was fine the way it is, but I wanted to add more color. So I'm going in very heavy-handed with my gelatos. You get a lot in these little tubes. I've never run out yet, so you don't have to be afraid you're going to run out, because I don't know if you will run out. They might last till the end of time. So I'm going in, just going over the colors again, and I'm making sure not to saturate my brush too much with the water. And then I'm going to get some really intense colors. I'm working off of the Tim Holtz craft mat, by the way, which is what I work off of when I do any kind of watercoloring or anything messy, because it's so easy to clean up. I absolutely love that little thing. I hate cleaning. So of course I wanted to make sure I bought something where I could just wipe up my my area there. So you can see the subtle differences between the two. To the left is the one we colored with water and a paintbrush, and to the right is the one that we blended with our finger and a baby wipe. And you can see the very subtle difference between the two. You get more intense color when you use less water. So it's really whatever you're going for. Now I decided to change the orientation of one of the cards to just get a different look, but I want to show you again how you can go ahead and stamp a sentiment onto a already watercolored card. So these are all nice and dry, and with the gelatos, once they are completely dry, they are permanent, so you don't have to worry about reactivating them or them coming off on your hands or in the envelope or anything like that. Now this is a stamp set by Hero Arts. I believe it's called Truly Appreciated. It'll be linked up in the supplies, and I thought this would be great for a thank you card. So I'm adhering my watercolor paper down a little bit with the with some washi tape, because when you apply watercolor, you know, it is going to kind of warp your card a little bit, and we added a lot of water, especially on this one. So I'm picking this stamp set up with my Martha Stewart footed press, and I'm using the VersaFine ink here, and I'm going to do the embossing powder again, but this time I'm going to use a different embossing powder instead of just the clear. But you can absolutely do the clear, or you don't have to emboss at all. I just like to emboss, especially over watercolor, when I'm doing watercoloring, because it really makes the sentiment stand out and adds that little extra bit of shine. And also it will resist any coloring that you do. So your color won't get lighter, if you know what I mean. Sometimes if you watercolor over sentiments, your sentiment starts to kind of fade into the background and it gets a little bit lost. So I'm going to be using this special embossing powder here that has this really cool sparkle in it. It's the Zing Black Glitter Finish embossing powder. Now it's a very subtle glitter finish. I hate working with glitter, by the way, because it just gets everywhere. I just am not good at it. I actually spilled some of this embossing powder. I don't know if I'm just jinxed with anything that has the word glitter on it or what, but I just make a mess. But anyway, so I'm going in. This works exactly like your embossing powder. You sprinkle it over your image, and you go ahead and heat set it. And with this, you just get a little bit of that glitter sparkle in it, versus with the clear embossing powder, you just get the shine. So I really like it. I thought it was something different that we could do here. And you can see that you can very easily add your sentiments to your watercolored backgrounds anytime you want. You do not have to do it before. I just usually do it before because it helps me with where I want to apply my color and whatnot. So now it's time to go ahead and pull these two cards together, which is going to be so easy to do. I just created the orientations of the two cards just differently. They're both going to be top folding cards, but for the sake of just trying to do something different and still keep it very simple, I just changed the orientations of both. So I'm going to be adhering both cards down to the black card base, and the black card base that I'm using is Simon Says Stamp Black cardstock. And I trimmed the edges of the watercolored panel here down a 1/4 inch on each side, so we'll get a little black border on each side, and then I added some black doodle bug enamel dots, and that's it for this card. Pretty simple. And then with the next card, I'm going to be doing the same thing. It's again a top folding card, and I'm going to trim the black card base down because I can see it's right now it's at 5.5 height and it needs to be at 5 1/4. So I'm going to go ahead and trim that card base down to be 5 1/4 high, and then I'm going to trim off some of the cardstock or the watercolor panel 1/4 inch on each side as well, and you'll see why in just a second. I like having the black borders of the card base shine through. I just think it adds a punch. I think it ties into the sentiment quite nicely, and it's keeping the card very clean and simple and very easy to mass produce. So I've gone ahead and trimmed that down. Now I'm going to have that black border on the left-hand side of the card shining through. And that's it. That's all I'm going to do with this card as well. I'm not going to add anything to it. I think the beautiful gelato colored background against the embossed sentiment is just pretty on both. I just think they're pretty. They can remain clean and simple, and you don't have to over embellish, and they just look fantastic. They're like little masterpieces. So if you're interested in any of these supplies, they are linked up on the YouTube description below, and you can also head over to my blog at laurelbeard.org for some more information about the cards and some more photos, and also the supplies will be linked up over there. So I'll be back tomorrow with my last card of this series, which features watercoloring with distress inks. See you tomorrow.